Hello friends, welcome back to another exciting learning series of Terraform for beginners. And today we are going to talk about the second meta argument which you can use in Terraform, and that is none other than for each meta argument. If you haven't watched my video on meta argument related to the count, how count can efficiently help you to avoid writing the repetitive code for the resource or a module which you want to create multiple instances of. So do watch that video. I'm going to share the link in my video description so that you can get an understanding of how you can use count in your day-to-day work if you're working on Terraform. So without much further delay, let's get into a theoretical knowledge of what makes for each different than a count, and we will also see a demo of it. So for each meta argument, a meta argument used to create multiple instances of resource or a module has as the name implies, the for each argument takes a map or a set of string, creating an instance for each item. It provides more flexibility than count by allowing you to use the complex data structures and access each instance with a unique identifier. Below is the syntax of how can you use for each with the set as well as the map. So the basic difference between the for each and the count is if you are having a constant consistency of uh, creating the resource with uh, instance type called as T2 micro, that's where you use the count. But if you want a dynamic thing to be happen, and that's where the for each comes. And one difference between the count and the for each is for each doesn't use the list, but there is a way to convert a list to a set and use that, and which we will be seeing in our demo session. Before that, let's get into some differences between the for each and the count. As I suggest, the for each iterates over each element in a map or a set to create multiple instances, whereas the count specifies the number of instances of a resource or a module. Like if you want to create two instances with the instance type T2 micro, you will just write count equals to 2, and that's what I have shown in my previous video. So before watching this video, you definitely go ahead and watch that count video to get a better understanding before even learning the for each. Second difference is for each applies on sets and maps, and count is a numeric expression like count equals to 2, count equals to 5, count equals to 3. For each, another difference is access to key value pairs of resources, each dot key and each dot value. So how can you access this key value pair? By using each dot key and each dot value. And how can you access the count is by simply using count dot index. What are the scenarios or use cases where you can use for each and the count? As I mentioned, used for dynamic creation derived from each item. So basically, whenever you see you want to have a dynamic scenario, for an example, for the web server, you want an instance type to be T2 micro, but for an application server, you want C1 micro, and for database you want any other instance type, and that's where you can make a use of for each. And the use case for the count is used for simple replication based on index, as I mentioned, to as we want to create an instance type of T2 micro and we want 3 instances to be created. For that, that's where you can use the count. So these are the few differences between for each and count. And now we will be heading out to our demo session in a bit. So let's get to the demo session. So friends, to demonstrate the demo of for each, I'm going to basically use a variable.tf where I'm going to declare the usernames. Okay, and then we are going to basically use the resource of AWS underscore IAM underscore users to populate that name. So without much further delay, let's get to the hands-on session. So I'm going to declare a variable called as usernames. Okay. Okay. And since we know for each can be accessed only through maps and sets, we are going to basically declare a type, okay, equal type map, okay, and it's going to be the string, right? And then we're going to declare a default. As soon as type this, you see it has a key and a value pair, right? That's what is the map. So I'm going to declare here user1 equals to Rajesh. Okay, user2 equals to, let me put a key, user2 equals to as Gaurav. Okay, so we have declared a variable, a username, and it has a type map string, and it has the key value pair has user1 and the user2. Okay, so I'm just going to basically save this. Okay, now let's go to the main.tf where I'm going to basically call the resource. As soon as I type, since I've already installed the plugin, as soon as I type the resource, it starts giving populating that. So AWS IAM underscore user. That's what we called, and we'll call it as IAM users. Okay, and then how can we access? Remember, for each, right? So that's what our is, right? So for each, and then I'm going to basically use where dot username, because that's what, because I have declared a map, so I do not need to convert it to set, right? And then I'm going to basically call it as name equals to each dot value. Okay, and now let's put a tag here. Okay, and it's a key a value pair, right? So how I'm going to access uh, each dot key equals to each dot value, and I'm going to basically save this, and let's now validate our code using Terraform validate and see if we have any syntax error or anything before we execute the Terraform plan. Okay, so we got a success, so that means everything looks good. And now let's execute Terraform plan. Okay, and that's what it worked, right? So if you see here, we have got the tag user1 equal to Rajesh, but if you see here, it is populating the name as Rajesh, and then we have user2 as a Gaurav and tag given to it this. So that's how the for each work. Now there can be a situation where you need to add more users into it, right? So all I'm going to do is go here and add another username, sorry, user3, and to give as Vikram. Okay, and I'm going to save here, and let's see how it, whether it works or not, right? Let's see, let's do Terraform validate to just to make sure that everything is good. And we got a success. And now let's execute our favorite command, Terraform plan, to see whether the user3 gets iterated or not, right? And yes, we got the user3. So that's how the for each helps you to iterate each item, whatever you have declared as a part of map or the set. But with the case of a count, it's not a dynamic, right? Whatever you have declared, that many times it will iterate. So if I've declared count equals to 2, so it will create 2 times only. But if I add that, if I want to add something dynamically, create it 3 times, 10 times kind of thing, that's where. So it's kind of that's one of the limitation, and that's where the for each comes into picture. Now let's use to set, where I'm going to basically use, instead of map, I'm going to use the list. And all I'm going to do here is nothing. I'm going to basically delete this part, and I'm going to type, instead of map, I'm going to type as list. And what are the list? String. Okay. And then I'm going to give a default. As soon as type, see, it gets populated. We are going to type as string, uh, type as Raj. The second value, let's put as Dave. Okay. And then we are going to basically save this. Now we are going to use here the list. And how are we going to use that list? That's our thing, right? And I'm going to basically use to set. As soon as I type two, it gives you two list, two map, two set, but we want to convert to two list. We are going to type here where dot use where dot username, and that's where our that's what is our variable name. All I'm going to do here is change this. So I'm going to type here, remove this, type here username, and basically use here each dot value. And then I'm going to basically save this. Okay. And let's clear the screen. Our favorite command, Terraform validate, to make sure everything works fine. And we got a success. And then finally, we are going to execute Terraform plan to see whether our list works fine or not, right? And it worked as what was expected. So that's how you can basically use the list, map, uh, set also in the form of for each, right? I hope this session was helpful and it gave you an understanding of how can you use for each for your dynamic scenarios and the count for the repetitive thing. If you like this video, do share with your friends, and do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notified whenever I upload such kind of videos.